Hey everyone, welcome back. It's episode 58 of the Paddle Talk podcast, and I am joined by our West Coast correspondent, Caleb Mings, our Midwest correspondent, Mr. Damian Bowers, and myself coming to you from the frigid north. And by frigid, I mean frigid. It was like single digits today. Not cool. Very hard to think of summertime. Yes, Damian Bowers, what was yours?
It's negative right now here.
Ugh. No, thank you. Well, on that note, from a place that's even possibly more frigid than we are, this episode, as with every episode of Paddle Talk, brought to you by Racing in the Dirt. Our friends out of Cleveland, Wisconsin, which is a fair amount north of us yet, so it's probably even colder there, are ready to make your 2025 race season one to remember, and hopefully in a good way. From turnkey builds all the way down to parts and accessories to get your ride up to spec and ready to go for the 2025 race season. They are ready to go. They UPS daily, at least when UPS picks up, because that was the problem at my work today. So get a hold of them. You can find them at racinginthedirt.com, as well as find them on Facebook, the Racing in the Dirt Facebook page, or you can give Scott a call. Area code 920-693-2000. That's 920-693-2000. Racing in the Dirt. All right, gents. So, in spite of it being cold here, it looked like it was a beautiful weekend last weekend at Dome Valley. Caleb Mings was soaking in the sunshine, hitting wind lights, and collecting winning time slips. So let's go with the event recap. So this is the first race in a four race point series that Dome's doing this year, Caleb?
4 race point series, that's correct.
Okay, so in a 4 race point series that the Dome Valley Raceway has put together, the guys down there have really worked hard, got some sponsor money together. Big shout out for them for stepping up their game with, let's face it, I mean, call it what it is. The Lake Elsinore track is really up in the air right now, and we may have seen our last racing at Lake Elsinore. I mean, we'll just call it what it is. At this point in time, with what we know, I don't think that's too out of line at this point. So kudos to the staff at Dome Valley for getting their stuff together, getting a point series together, and giving everybody a spot to race. So, Caleb, let's get started. Friday, what were we up to?
Oh, well, it was a brisk, mid 60 day. We were just freezing our butts up. Now, it was beautiful weather out there. Definitely felt bad for all y'all getting on the live streams and shouting out how cold it was in different areas. I definitely got, I know Shane from Racing Dirt was like, yeah, it's like 8 degrees here right now, and that was the high for the day. We had some other people saying, yeah, it was negative 27 with wind chill somewhere. Like, oh man, like I felt bad, yeah. But it was a beautiful, beautiful race weekend there, Dome Valley Raceway. Some new people out at the grounds there, and definitely some old faces as well for that new point series. Bigger and better than it was for the 2024 season. And they added some classes to the point series this year. So all 3 of the Pro Car and ATV indexes got added. As well as I believe that they're doing points for both the Pee-wees and juniors this go around. So lots of point series implications starting out there. We kicked things off with the index classes for those Pro Cars bikes. And we've got Braden Root in the 395 index. That is a machine that he's now, I believe this is his second year campaigning, been continuing his winning streak from the 2024 season. And he's taken the win over Jeffrey Callis out of DFS Motorsports. The 450 index for the cars, we saw Joseph Weaver taking the win in his Jeep over another DFS Motorsports driver, David Root. So father and son there with the Root family, getting some good wins there in the index classes. Over on the ATV side, the 395 ATV index, we saw Dominic Pena getting the win over Wes Fuller. So that was kind of our indexes there. 2 rounds of qualifying for all of the heads-up classes. So they had top alcohol, A fuel, and top limiter on the property. Chris Minor Racing, as we spoke about in our preview, was in attendance there. Definitely taking a couple of passes to figure out the track. Very different surface than what they're used to, but they were plugging away at the qualifying order there. And then we got into our gamblers for the Friday night. And so they have a car gambler and an ATV gambler, and those are just essentially a big money bracket race. Open-end bracket, so anybody could run. I mean, Bobby Cottrell and the Chris Minor Racing Jeep could have entered in that, and if they wanted to. We've seen that happen in the past out at Saboba. None of them did it this time, though, so we just had our normal bracket cars and bikes there. But Braden Root got the double up for Friday, winning the Friday Gambler, getting some good money there. Got that over Hector Garcia, and that was Hector's first event this is the Looney Racing's their Pro 1 dragster. First time out with that car, so doing a good job there. And my pops got first in the ATV Friday Night Gambler over Dominic Pena. So kudos to the Mings clan there, getting out there and getting some good action.
Breaking up a sweep of ATVs that night.
Oh, yeah. So that was our Friday schedule. Saturday, we went into the sportsman classes where we saw Kenzie Rex in the Blonde Bandit dragster getting the win over Clayton Teeter. And Clayton Teeter going, and he was pulling double duty, running Sport 1 and Sport 2. And in Sport 2, he got first over Joseph Weaver. I took first in the Sport 1 ATV over Dominic Pena. And Sport 2 ATV, we saw Silas Pozniakov taking the win over Aubrey Pena. So that was pretty cool to see Aubrey. I could be wrong on this, but I think it was Aubrey's first time running in the adult brackets.
Nice.
She's normally running in the Pee-wee category in her little 90cc chassis bike. So it was cool to see her get second place there. And she was pretty stoked on getting some hardware. 2 more rounds of qualifying that occurred. We had some late night additions with some top eliminator and alcohol passes. There was several competitors, especially in top eliminator, that couldn't get passes earlier in the weekend. Either they weren't there Friday or had issues and couldn't make a session. So the staff at Dome Valley was kind enough to let them make up those passes. And we did see some implications as well for those. Some qualifying orders changed in the final session there. And we also saw Tommy Zavala joining in and pulling WD in top alcohol. He was the lone entry to do that this event. The previous event to wrap up the 2024 season, we saw, I believe it was Jim Nafziger and Tristan Graham doing the same polling double duty. So Jim was not there with his car. He was just out there helping Terry Crawford, his Yabba Dabba Doo racing teammate. And Tristan said, hey, that was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work too.
Sure.
So they stuck with just top eliminator. And right before we had those additional passes, we had our Saturday gamblers. So same thing as the Friday night program. This time, Clayton Teeter taking the win over teammate David Root there in the Saturday Gambler. And oh my gosh, look at here. My pops, Randy Mings, getting another Gambler win, doubling up with both gamblers. I don't think that's happened too many times that we've had the same competitor win both Friday and Saturday night Gamblers. And then he got the win over Bruno Aragon that was on Wesley Fuller's bike. So kind of fun to see some rider swaps and stuff there.
Sure. Awesome. I got to ask, Silas Pozniakov, are we, I mean, is he sponsored by the Eastern European mob? I mean, the name goes with it. I'm not, right? I mean, it's awesome. I'd love if his bike is named the Godfather or something. Hats off, dude.
It almost should be.
It.
No, he's out there in a stock brute force utility quad.
Yes,
out there. So pretty cool. Yeah, no, actually fun fact. You would actually know a ride that his family's come into possession of, Isaac.
Wait. Was it one I possibly saw on a trailer headed for a new home this week?
Ooh, I don't know. What vehicle are we talking about here?
This was a Jeep that is well known in the Yuma area that has a lot of passes under its belt. That ran pro truck a couple of times when I was out there. Also did some, I believe, even ran some pro mod on 2000s a couple of times. And with some big nitrous help, I believe maybe even tried to run some 295 at one point in time as well. So,
is this a Beck Jeep?
No, it is not actually.
Which Jeep are we talking about here?
This would be the Autodoc Mike Irwin Jeep I saw on an open trailer headed for a new home this week. So, which surprised the heck out of me because one, I honestly figured Mike had just put it away in the back of the shop and it would be a round to it type project when he got bored with the roundy round stuff, or it already had found a new home and I just didn't know about it. So that actually kind of took me by surprise. But by your reaction, that's not the car we're talking about.
That is not the car, but I do like Mike Irwin's Jeep and be very excited to see where that's going. No, this is actually an ATV. Mr. George Amos. This is his old 250R laydown bike. I mean, the thing probably weighs 100 pounds with fuel in it.
Oh, wow.
The Pozniakovs have that ride and been talking with Silas, and hopefully we're going to see that eventually this year. I know he's a little nervous to ride it and stuff. It's a lot more bike than the utility quad. Very different style of riding as well, but
for sure,
that bike for any of you guys that have been around the West Coast, you've seen George Amos, and then I can't remember. There was somebody up in Oregon that had gotten it for a while, and that bike has got probably more wins than just on that one bike than most people do in their whole racing careers.
I will say that your dad, George, and Jake, the guy that used to run tractor for us once in a while, had those three bikes seem to find their way to the finals so many times. It was like a broken record at times out there. It was literally the usual suspects, along with the Winkles and once in a while with Miss Jacqueline. So that's cool, though. I would love to see that bike back out. That bike was always fit and finish, very nice looking, and George could flat out ride that thing too. So that's awesome. Sweet. Well, hey, Silas, we need to see you making some hits on that thing. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You do whatever you got to do there, boss.
We'll have to talk with Pops and stuff too, because I'm sure he's got a say in that as well.
All right.
But yeah, we'll see about the rest of 2025 season there. I think that'd be cool. So that kind of wrapped up our Saturday and kicked off Sunday eliminations with the kids. The Pee-wees division, we saw Aubrey Pena. Like we said, she was second place in the sportsman ATVs. She took the win over Silas's one of his younger sisters, the twins, Eleanor Pozniakov. And in the juniors division, we saw Drake McCrary in his junior dragster taking the win over Gavin Gonzalez. I believe that was Gavin's first race. He was on a very nice looking dune banshee. So it was pretty cool to see him out there. He was getting the thing figured out, had some big wheelies starting out, and slowly figured out, okay, we can't latch it that hard. We gotta ease into this clutch a little bit. But yeah, doing some great work there in the juniors division. Going over to the pro ATVs, first place in Pro 1 ATV was Mike Brock on his laydown pro stock bike, taking the win over my dad, Randy, in the Pro 1 division. And yours truly taking first place in Pro 2 ATV, finally getting the 250R figured out. We struggled this weekend so much with clutch issues on that bike. Finally got it going good. got the win over Marcus Rydell in a pretty close final there in Pro 2 ATV. Going over to the pro car side, we saw Craig Durning. This time in his dragster, he left the Jeep, Eugene the Jeep at home.
Oh.
Dragster's out. Him and his grandson Ryan had a fantastic weekend in that car, both running personal bests at Dome Valley Raceway. And he took the win over Hector Garcia once again from the Looney Camp. First time out behind doing some bracket racing. Hector's always done heads up stuff in the past. So new car to him, new thought process on how to actually go and race. So congrats to Hector there. Pro 2, we saw Braden Root getting the win over Clayton Teeter. So that marks Braden's third final of the weekend, getting first place. So awesome job to Braden, man. He's definitely on a roll. That is in Jeep that he bought from Tata Racing, Alex Garcia. And man, I bet Alex is regret selling that Jeep because he's winning all the time in it. Pro 3, we saw Sean Pozniakov, that's Silas's dad, taking the win over David Root. So we saw the Root family definitely cleaning house there. And let's get into the big boys here. Top alcohol. Isaac, you want to take this one?
I will. Bobby Cottrell, man, continuing his winning ways. Now, was he driving the Jeep?
Yeah.
Okay. Over Mr. Tommy Zavala in top alcohol. So nice job by both those guys getting to the final. I believe, did Bobby beat Jim Hammond to get to the final, or how did that shape up?
So the qualifying order originally was set. It was just the three cars. Tommy made that last minute pass on Saturday night to get into the qualifying order. And so that kind of changed things up. Jim Hammond was our number one qualifier, set to basically have the bye run in the first round as the minor racing team with Bobby Cottrell and Joshua Minor behind the wheel of the dragster. We're going to face off against each other. And with that new addition with Tommy Zavala there, Jim Hammond, he had hurt the motor. I mean, best of a 265. And if you guys know Hammond Racing, April's Dream, that car running in the 60s is not, that it could do that a walk in the park. This is a 40s car. So that can just show you kind of where they were at with it. So they struggled and hurt the car, got it back together. And they didn't, from my understanding, realize that they were going to be racing Tommy initially in the morning. And they still, something was wrong with the car, didn't have enough oil pressure. So they said, hey, you know what? We're tired of blowing this car up.
Sure.
We're not going to push it. We're, even to make this round and stuff, it doesn't make sense. I'm hearing this is going to be Jim Hammond's final farewell tour, 38 years of racing in the sport here. So he said, you know what? If I'm going to make any other events, probably better to not blow it up here and delay, with it's hard to get parts right now. Yeah. So he pushed it back to the camp, giving Tommy Zavala a bye run, and then the minor team faced off against each other. Josh Minor, career best 281 against Bobby Cottrell there. And Bobby ended up taking the win over there, and Tommy in the final.
That is a beautiful car there by Joshua Minor as well. Car looks really, really good. Of course, the Jeep always looks good. So congrats to that team. Congrats, Tommy Zavala, too, as that car was in pieces not too long ago as well after a little incident south of the border, I believe. So congrats to those guys for getting that thing back in, and great job by everybody. So, all right. So top eliminator. And what is this? No dragsters to be found in the final. Caleb Mings, who are our two finalists?
Finalists here, we got Tristan Graham taking the win over his teammate Larry Snow. You guys know here on the West Coast, the Triple Threat Racing team out here in their blown buggies. And man, we had all three of them out here. The lone one outside of the Triple Threat Racing crew was Kylie Graham. Didn't quite have her car back together, but we saw Tristan, Larry, and Paul Graham out there with their buggies, putting on a show. Those cars are rowdy. They're short wheelbase. They don't always go straight, but they got the job done. That's for sure. And and it was definitely a tight field. I think, Damien, you were commenting on what the spread was on there. The first place first number one qualifier was Terry Crawford, a perfect 295.0, and I think the last place qualifier was a 308 with Eric Brown, and that's his first event in top eliminator with a new big block Chevy blown combo. So super tight field, and yeah, we had 2 buggies that made it to the top.
Very impressive. For those of you out there that probably know Larry Snow, the most banned guy I know on Facebook.
I think he's definitely in Facebook jail more often than he's actually on Facebook.
I think you're right.
Oh dear Lord!
But I tell you what, Larry is also a guy that when he goes to the racetrack, he's going to have a good time. And honestly, there are times you would not know how the car is running because his attitude seems to be the same, whether he's the number 12 qualifier or he's number 2 qualifier. His attitude is the same. He comes to have a good time, comes to enjoy time with his friends. And but hey, shout out to both those guys because and you're right, Caleb. Those cars are all a handful to drive, and they are kind of like a pro mod. 1 out of 3 passes is going to be smooth. The other 2, you're going to drive the wheels off it, and hopefully you can get it 301 feet before having to do some major correction. So,
yeah, and I will say too, to add to that storyline with Larry, I mean, they lifted the blower on the, trying to remember if it was 3rd or 4th qualifying session, but they had to scramble to get the car back together.
Wow.
And to come back and get that 2nd place next to his teammate, like it was a super cool little storyline from the weekend.
Very cool. Very, very cool. So,
Yep.
All right. And last but certainly not least, because we may have somebody found his way into a driver's seat that I got news there, Dad. You may not be getting it back from the looks of it. A Fuel, which is our 4-cylinder guys. And Caleb, who do we have here in our final round?
Oh, yeah, we got Cody the Hot Rod Hoffman, personal best this weekend, running a 277, I believe, in the Smooth Sucker machine, taking the driving duties over from his dad, Steve, and getting the win over Jordan Quintal. Jordan, a no-show on Sunday's competition, but they've made some real headway with that Cubic Bucks Nissan turbocharged buggy. They had Jordan and actually had a little bit of help from Mr. VW Paradise himself, Chris Loffer, came out and made some passes in it. And all I can say is that I'm surprised with the sheer amount of lead that must be in his testicles that the car still made such wheelies, because that guy has no fear. They got the 2-step working on it. They've been changing gearing around on this car, and it has definitely woken it up. And like I said, when the 2-step got working, Chris jumped in the driver's seat for the final 2 sessions. This car was a handful. It made the triple threat racing buggies look like a walk in the park, little peewees going down the track. Because this thing was, I swear, I mean, you'll see, I think we posted one photo from one of the qualifying sessions, straight up in the air immediately and going sideways down the track. I don't know how he missed the sensors 1 pass, but man, like I said, Chris, hats off to you, because the guy can drive, definitely no fear. And I hope that they could get the car figured out, because I will say that car, once they can get it to launch under power, with how much power it seems like they have, I think we're going to be looking at somebody that might be able to compete for the A buggy record alongside Darryl Rowe. I mean, this car, I think, is very capable of 290s pretty easily.
Wow. Awesome. Great, man. I love it. That is a storyline we're going to have to keep in mind and kind of keep an eye on. So, all right, Damien Bowers, anything that you, looking at the, some of the footage we've got from the weekend, and our winners and stuff like that, anything that sticks out to you as far as this dome race?
Right off the top of my head, just how tight the 295 field is getting out there right now. Just like out here, top limiter is looking like it's starting to become the class to run in anymore if you're wanting to go fast.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would agree. And I tell you what, I cannot wait as this series goes and we get to the next couple of events and stuff like that. And I'm really hoping we start to see more of these SoCal guys take advantage. Let's face it, it's a little bit of a drive to get there. The track is well worth it. The Juarez family has this track prepped. It is as good a track, I believe, as you're going to find in the southwest part of the country. And really, especially with, like I said, like we said at the get-go, with things kind of being unknown on Lake E, you have no excuse not to be there. Let's put it that way. So, Caleb Mings, final words on your first race out and the weekend.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. Mings Racing, we did great. Got some bugs and stuff figured out, and we can't wait for the next one. Definitely hope that we can see more of the SoCal guys come up. I know that they're still working on solutions, whether Lake Elson or somewhere else in Southern California. Eventually, we'll have to get something going. But in the meantime, Dome Valley Raceway is a great track to race at. And, they've got 3 more events coming up here. And next one's going to be in March. So get your stuff ready.
Yeah, February PSDA race down there at Dome, followed up by a March race. So, which I believe we are under the impression that there may be a Midwest contingent heading out for the March race. So, should be a fantastic deal down there. So, not something you want to miss. We'll be obviously there with full coverage once it comes to the March race and possibly some PSDA stuff as well. So, for myself, Caleb Mings, Damian Bowers, that is a wrap on Dome Valley, race number 1 of 2025. Howdy, folks. Welcome back to the podcast, the Pedal Talk podcast, as a matter of fact. We are on episode 58. Joining me again, as always, Mr. Caleb Mings, West Coast correspondent, and my fellow Midwesterner, Damian Bowers. Joining me for our next segment, which we're talking a little schedule thing, and one of our favorite tracks out there. Haven't personally been to it, but I know quite a few others of you have. Newtown Dragway, located in Virginia, the site of formerly, what was it, Damien? The Beanfield Nationals, I think, was their big race out there for quite a while.
Beanfield Shootout or something like that.
Yeah, yep. Always sounded like a good one to get to, but just was never able to release their schedule this week. And let's talk about it a little bit. So they've got 2 different schedules out there. One is their ATV and bike racing. A lot of guys may not know single-cylinder 2-wheelers are a big thing in the Virginia, Carolinas, kind of that east-southeast, corner of the country is a big thing down there. Kind of crazy to me.
V-twins.
They even have some V-twins, correct? If I remember right, even.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that area's got some really fast, what's equivalent to some Nitro Harleys running around down that area, don't they?
I believe you're right. So definitely. So, and let's face it, the new logo is killer. I love that with the old old school Chevy on it. I mean, I just think it looks cool and really clean and everything else. So, ATV and bike racing, kicking things off May 31st, followed up by July 12th, and then September 27th. So, a pretty wide gap in there. Allows a lot of guys to kind of plan out, where they're not locked into racing, a really tight schedule or anything else. It gives guys plenty of time to get stuff put back together again. So, Damian Bowers, thoughts on that?
Definitely, around that area, the bike racing is really big. So there's multiple tracks, not just Greens, not just Newtown, not just 316 dirt drags. They've even got a 500-foot track out there. So there's plenty of options for the bike racers. I think that's more just working with the other tracks so not everyone's stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah, I kind of got the same idea was, they're trying to basically get in where they fit in, so to speak, from a schedule wise. So Caleb Miggs, not that much different than what goes on the West Coast, where racers spread out a little more, and
Yeah, no, and it is good to see that things are kind of spread out a little bit there. I know that the ATV and bike racing stuff has kind of gone up and down there at Newtown Dragway over the years. So I think, a little bit shorter of a schedule than they've had in the past, but spread out should allow them to make sure that those events are well attended. And like you guys were saying, tons of single cylinder dirt bike action out there, the V-twin scene. A lot of fast ATVs. They'll be making hits. They're going to have tons of classes. They generally have, big brackets with some good paydays there, huge trophies, as well as a bunch of CC brake engine classes. So lots of heads up racing should be available to all the ATV and bike guys out there for Newtown Dragway.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And, always good racing there, and very interesting. So, not to say then they have a small schedule, because then we flip over to the Friday nights, and Friday night is when they do all their full-size car/truck racing. Damian Bowers, what's our list for the Friday nights for Newtown?
Starting out, they're having a test and tune April 18th, just so people can go out there, see where they're at to start the year. May 9th, they start their list racing, which is mostly just street trucks, where our last two ET holders for the Pure Street Gas record came from that area. Big nitrous truck, and now Brandon Culleton with his big twin turbo LS truck. June 6th, they're going to have a shootout. So one of their Beanfield shootouts is what they always called these. July 18th is their second list race. August 1st, they're going to have another one of the Beanfield shootouts. And you'll see anything from the Wild Thing, a third-gen Camaro with a big nitrous motor, to mega trucks, stock pickups. You name it, you're probably going to see it out there. I think I've even seen a few golf carts out there making pretty fast passes. September 12th is going to be their last list race of the year. And then October 17th looks like it's going to be the season finale for their shootout.
And test and tune on each one of those dates. So, I mean, if you're looking to get something dialed in or something like that, there's plenty of time to do that as well. So, yeah, pretty full schedule. I mean, when you couple that up with the ATV schedule, that's a pretty full schedule.
Oh, yeah. We're looking a lot of back-to-back weekends, it seems like there, so there's definitely, I mean, if you're going to be in the Newtown, Virginia area, you've got something going on almost every other weekend. If you're a spectator or a racer, sounds like there's going to be something to do.
Absolutely. No, for sure. So really encourage everybody, if you're in that area of the country, get on down there, check it out. I believe it's you can find them on Facebook. I believe they do have a Facebook page. Also, I think was it newtowndragway.com or something like that. You have to check out the Facebook info section. So, all right. So that is going to wrap up a little schedule preview for Newtown this year. And who knows, maybe one of these summers we'll see a traveling series make an appearance down there again. So that would be a good thing in my opinion as well, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's going to wrap up our Newtown, Virginia preview. All right, folks, welcome back to the Paddle Talk Podcast, episode 58. And we're moving on to talk more schedule with the Texas Mud Drag schedule that came out this week. It looks to be a 6-race schedule with, if you look at it, you'll see it behind Mr. Damian Bowers there, but you can also find it on the Texas Mud Drags Facebook page as well. So 6-race schedule. And if you look at, you'll see a lot of very familiar tracks to most of us out there. Caleb Mings, what kind of pops out to you right away?
Well, I could say I think they liked being in Brookville because they're starting off the schedule of Franklin County four-wheelers May 2nd and 3rd in Brookville, Indiana. And they that event out there was a big hit for them, a big hit for the sensors too. So let's hope that they don't drive it quite as hard with it being the season opener, not the season closer. And I think that is kind of the biggest thing for me. I love seeing series that go and travel, and sometimes we see people go to different tracks and they really only go there once and said, hey, yeah, well, that didn't work out. Good, glad we tried it, but we're not going back. And definitely not the case here.
For sure. And so second race of the year, Texas Mud Drags making their Michigan debut will be up at on my home track of the Silverback Off-Road Speedway right there in Mears, which has its own history, but to my knowledge, never hosted a 200-foot heads-up race. This could be, I mean, we are into unknown territory, so really looking forward to it. And interestingly enough, what I really found interesting was Texas Mud Drags teasing a little Doug Vinlett dragster action on their Facebook page this week, which makes me wonder, what all do they have up their sleeve for that weekend? This could be very interesting.
Maybe they'll have an open, unlimited, just anything goes class. Running 200 foot.
I would love to see it.
Ooh, that would be very interesting to see if they do that. We could see a lot of rails that don't normally come out around the Texas Mud Drag Series from, some other mud racing series come out and run in that and as basically an open paddle class. It'd be very interesting to see.
Not to mention the amount of vehicles in Michigan, because there's a lot that run Pro Truck Elite that don't quite meet that minimum weight to get into the open door slammers class.
Absolutely. No, that was my thought as well, is that there's plenty of Pro Truck Elite guys that could be chomping at the bit on an open tire class there. So that could get very interesting very fast.
Now, another thing with Michigan is we're going to see a lot of 3,600-pound stock body, stock engine location trucks trying to get moving on cut tires on that sand. We're going to see some trenches.
Oh, yeah. That's something I'm super excited for. They're literally going to go from a super sticky clay track to actual dune sand. Like,
you're going to see trucks sink.
Yes. I can tell you from experience, at least with our truck on cuts, I would say it took me probably close to a half a dozen passes to where I really felt like I was starting to get a handle on what we could bring it out at, and tire pressure and stuff like that. And those guys are not going to have that kind of testing to be able to do that unless they come up some other time. So should be very, very interesting and, should be a really good race. So, okay. Damian Bowers, where are we headed next that we know of?
Well, next on the schedule with an announced date, and apparently I aggravated some people by announcing this with the Cleves schedule as a tentative date, but now it's official. Going to Gravelrama August 1st and 2nd. So at the start of the month, they're going to have a big 200-foot heads-up race, and then at the end of the month is Gravelrama. So August in Cleves is going to be wild. Another track that a lot of people are going to be thrown for a loop on by this surface.
Absolutely. Yeah. You think trying to adapt from Franklin County to Silverback is interesting. Try to go from Silverback to Gravelrama. That also is a major culture shock there. So
the best I've been able to compare since they've started using the Ripper is the track is like launching on a really dry but still wet concrete. That's about the best I can explain it. It's heavy, but it's loose.
That's very true. So, all right. So then coming up September 5th and 6th, Southern Thunder Mud Track, Cobbtown, Georgia. Now, is this the old Cobbtown track?
Yes. This is that Cobbtown track that the MRA, Randy Roberts with his old unpredictable altered with a almost 500 cubic inch small block and enough nitrous to knock out an elephant.
All right. And then last race on the schedule, Caleb Miggs, a track you and I are very familiar with.
Yeah. No, super cool. October 3rd and 4th, they're going to Booker Farms in Steelville, Missouri. I guess it's Steelville. I don't know. It's kind of on the border there. whatever they want to call it out there. But the Booker Farms, home of the season finale and openers for the MRA. So going to be cool to see them out there with another 200-foot series. A little bit different setup for the vehicles, but that track, walking that's definitely a little bit more what the Texas Mud Drags folks are used to. And I think we're going to see some quick times out there.
I would agree. And I think you and I both said when we had been to the Booker Farms track right off the bat, that was a track that needed to have more events. It is a great venue. I'm telling you guys right now, the guys that are out there, if you're considering a late fall race, you will not be disappointed in going there. Greg and Elizabeth Booker, one, are fantastic hosts. Two, the track food is on point. And by on point, I mean, I've been to a lot of tracks. I have not ate as well as I have anywhere compared to the Booker Farms track. The food is absolutely spot on. And I tell you what, and Caleb, you can back me up on this. The spectator count is really something to behold.
Oh, yeah.
It is. If you want to race in front of a bunch of people, that is a place you're going to have the opportunity to. So
definitely. No, it's definitely a packed schedule there. And like we've been saying, a lot of different surfaces is going to be an absolute tuner's nightmare. Probably a driver's nightmare too. I mean, it's going to feel very different in the driver's seat at all these different facilities, but it's going to make for an interesting season. And I know you want to get back to this, Isaac. There is one event on here that we don't know where it's at yet.
That's right. The TBA really has me interested because you're talking July. It's kind of middle, I mean, I don't know that you want to be, way south because things get a little hot, a little sticky maybe, but possibly could we see an appearance at a track in Mississippi during that time? I mean, maybe July is better on the humidity than August. I don't know. According to Kevin Harrison, it's just wet all the time, but I mean, I honestly don't know. Damian Bowers, what does your gut tell you might be happening there?
I'm wanting to say they're going to try and want to get closer back home to Texas, obviously, because it's Texas Mud Drags. There's no Texas races on the schedule. So they could be working on with trying to get with one of their tracks back home. Maybe one of the other tracks in central U.S. You got Atoka, you got Thunder Valley, and you've got right there in the middle of them both, America's Oasis is a new track we seen last year that could see potential there.
Yeah, I agree. And I want to say this. Shout out to Tim Soldat and the guys at Texas Mud Drags for really listening to their racers and saying, you know what? We're going to give you some tracks, one, you've never been to, and two, some tracks where you're going to be able to show off what you can do. And this goes a long way. I mean, right? We've talked for a long time of, I would say even going back to the Mike Lane days of, okay, you're really fast in the mud. Let's see you do it in 300 feet and vice versa. And there are tracks on here that guys are going to get their shot at each other to be able to do. Eric Bidlack.
Oh, totally.
Okay. So
because obviously you've got with last year, Brookville, that was just a matter of who got down the track the best last year. So we're going to see them come back with some data. So either they're going to start going down the track or it's going to be a fight of going A to B. Then you go up to Michigan where the big horsepower, the door slammer, small block power adder guys, they're going to be able to throw everything they want at it and it's going to go down. 90% of the time, big horsepower cars on that stand, they're going A to B.
Absolutely.
And then you got four-wheel mod and four-wheel mod and big block where they're just going to be having to fight to get moving because they're naturally aspirated classes. They ain't got all of that horsepower. They still got a lot there on tap, but you still got to get 3,000 and 3,600 pounds moving. July, it's still up in the air. Then they're going down to Cleves again. That pea gravel, it's always been kind of up in the air what that surface is going to give you. So one weekend it's going to want big horsepower. The next weekend it's just going to be a drive down Broadway. Then Cobbtown, Georgia, famous for hook. Always that red clay. It's got a massive amount of bite to it. And then obviously going to Booker Farms, we've seen what that track can hold, and it's just wild.
Damien, where do you think they're going to go in July, though? I mean, we're talking, clay, sand, then pea gravel, but somewhere in between. Where do you think is the most likely suspect?
Like I said, I want to say they're trying to either go to Mississippi or back to Texas, possibly. If not, like I said, I've suggested a few last year. There's always Thunder Valley's always a good option if it ain't underwater. Atoka's another sand track, as is America's Oasis, but they're even drier sand than what you see up in Michigan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I concur on that, and I feel like southern, maybe northern Mississippi, and you know what? Maybe there's a track out there we're not really familiar with that they're kind of eyeing up. Who knows? So very exciting, and I tell you what, it's a heck of a schedule. I mean, it is 6 very different venues. Really embracing the idea of a traveling series. So, like I said, shout out to the guys at Texas Mud Rags for making this happen. So,
I'm going to give a little left field prediction. What about Shelton's in Stanford, Kentucky?
Shelton's was actually in the back of my mind when we started talking of maybe that could be a place we could see them show up. And I tell you what, James Shelton can make some things happen on that dirt of his down there, and that would be a heck of a place to see the Texas Mud Drags go. So that would be very interesting.
That takes me back to Sand Drag Central. The first time I'd ever heard of this place is Bobby Dodro posting a video of him testing one of the Middle Eastern trucks he built.
Wow. Yes. Yep.
Talk about a track that's got a lot of hook and is going to give a lot of mile per hour, especially if they're using that roller.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I think Joe Gorney can attest to the amount of hook.
Yes. Mr. Gorney definitely can give some of that. So that is for sure. So should be very interesting. Looks like a really fun schedule, and going to be a very interesting summer for those guys. So looking forward to it. So last thoughts there, gentlemen, on Texas Mud Drags then.
I definitely am curious to see where that 6th track is going to be. Like I said, I'm holding out for Stanford, Kentucky with Shelton's Dirt Drags. I think that'd be a cool facility. I'm not so certain on going to 2 sand tracks in 1 year. That's why I'm kind of, even though both America's Oasis and Atoka would be a lot closer, as we were saying, to their home state, I'm not so sure that a Texas Mud Drag is going to want to do 2 pure sand tracks in 1 year. But it's going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do, and it's going to be fun to see them try all these different surfaces.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of the new trucks, a lot of the trucks that said they were going to make it to Missouri or to Brookville, that run MRA, that seen what went down at Brookville and are now going to try and make it out to these races. And then obviously, hopefully a lot of the Pro Truck Elite vehicles, like maybe we'll see some of the more wild Michigan trucks make the trek that normally run at Silverback.
Entirely possible. So it should be very interesting. So, all right. So that is going to wrap up our Texas Mud Drag schedule preview, brought to you by, as always, Racing in the Dirt out of Cleveland, Wisconsin. From turnkey builds to accessories, parts, tires, wheels, you name it. Scott and the crew are ready to help you get your ride ready for the 2025 race season. So contact them today, either by email, which is scott@racinginthedirt.com, or give them a call on the phone. Area code 920-693-2000. That's area code 920-693-2000. Or you can find them on Facebook or at racinginthedirt.com. Hey everyone, welcome back. Paddle Talk episode 58 is rolling along here, and we are getting things wrapped up, but not before your loyal Sand Drag crew. Myself, Caleb Mings, and Damian Bowers has some weekly hot takes. Could be anything we've seen from motorsports in general over the past, who knows, whatever we've been thinking about lately and whatever's been going on. So we kind of throw some stuff out there, banter a little bit, and kind of leave it open-ended so you guys can kind of chime in and feel free to let us know your thoughts on these subjects as well. So I will lead off this week as we get things wrapped up. So this story coming to us from the NHRA. Now, as we all know, NHRA, it's their sandbox. You play by their rules. But if anyone knows the name Summer Richardson, Summer Richardson happens to have a sponsor. And maybe it's not a sponsor that I would choose or anybody else on the panel. But she's been running this sponsor for the last 2 seasons. And what happened last week? NHRA decided this is the no fun area, and they told her they are not going to allow her to run her sponsor on her top alcohol dragster for 2025. Now, they have put together this team since last fall. New car, I'm assuming a couple of new bullets, crew, the whole 9 yards, and now NHRA says, well, we don't really care. It's our sandbox. You're going to play by our rules, and your car is not going down the track with that sponsor. Regardless of how you feel about it, and this is the point I'm trying to make here, that's pretty heavy-handed. Gentlemen, once Damian Bowers can compose himself, what do we think about this? All right? Regardless of
I'll go and kick this off while Damian's recovering. Okay, first of all, Isaac, because I did hear about this, and Isaac kind of blindsided us here, folks. So that's why Damian is he's busting up here.
Takes, isn't it?
Well, as soon as you said what the sponsor was, I didn't hear the name, but I'd seen the pictures, and I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh yeah.
And I have my answer ready when you're done.
I want to ask you, Isaac, because I was not sure about. I've heard about this young lady and about her race team and said sponsor, but I'm not familiar with the previous seasons that she's run it on the car. Now, with this being a new car, is it just that the wrap on it, this sponsorship is much more prominent this go around, or is it always been the same logo size on the vehicle and NHRA is just like, you know what? We've decided we don't want this.
So I'll be honest, and this is just my personal theory on this. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, but they have been running top Sportsman maybe before this with her previous car. They are making the move to top alcohol dragster. What does top alcohol dragster get you? It gets you TV time on the Lucas Oil Sportsman Series side of things, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning, and let's face it, Summer Richardson knows how to race, okay? Flat out, however you feel about her, that car gets down and they know what they're doing, and they're a pretty well-funded team. The chances of that car being on TV, I feel, are quite high. Hence why she said a multi-million-dollar deal to put that name on their car. Well, let's face it. If that car is going to get TV time, you've gone from a car that is in, let's face it, the top sportsman guys do not get the kind of TV time that top alcohol dragster does. So now you're entering into a world where this car is, let's face it, is going to be on TV at your events with this name on it. And I think somebody at NHRA looked at that and said, no way, no how, not a good idea. Which I guess, and I should say, it's not so much the fact that they pulled the plug on the sponsor, okay? I get that. And I think that probably happens more than we know, okay? But to pull the plug, as she says, they were, 3 to 4 weeks out from a national event. The timing is absolutely terrible, especially with the idea that you've already allowed that sponsor in for 2 seasons prior to this.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes a lot of sense to what you're saying, Isaac. And, like you said, this is definitely not the first sponsorship that NHRA has said, hey, this is a no-go. The TV time aspect does make a lot of sense now. I could see that being a huge thing. And look, timing wise, yeah, definitely not very smart on that. But NHRA is also looking out for themselves here. I can almost guarantee you that if they let that go on TV alongside all of their other much more corporate, clean cut sponsorships alongside other vehicles, people are going to maybe have some issues with that. And NHRA maybe made this decision on the pocketbook side, we'll say, where other sponsors started voicing their thoughts on this and saying, hey, maybe we pull out our much, extra zeros on the end of those sponsor deals if you allow this young lady with a sponsor that they don't really care for to get that TV time.
I would agree. Damian Bowers.
On the TV time,
you're cool, you're ready.
Yeah, I get this, but at the same time, there's an equivalent thing in Europe. There's a team, female driver, runs the British GT Championship, and an OnlyFans sponsored, gotta say it, McLaren. And this is not the first time I've heard about this popping up in the motorsports world. There are women out there who are sponsored by this that use this money to go do motorsports. And as a company, that website decides, hey, we can double everything and say, let's get our name further out there. And you're seeing it more and more with other brands. But at the same time, I see where it's coming from on TV. Do you really want to promote that kind of content?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I have no, like I said, it's an interesting situation from outside looking in as to how this is going to pan out. I would guess NHRA having to do it all over again would probably say, you know what, 2 years ago, we probably should have closed the door on this, at some point ahead of time or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest thing, but I would believe, and maybe I'm all wrong on this, but I got to feel the TV aspect of it looms pretty large on this deal from an NHRA standpoint.
Now,
yeah, Isaac, I think you're 100% right on that. Because, NHRA, bottom line, they're a private company. They get to do whatever the heck they want.
Exactly.
And they seriously, since the inception of NHRA, they have had rules as far as what your cars can look like. They don't want any backyard rusted out builds and stuff. They have certain expectations that cars are going to be, fit and finished. And, they certainly have the right to dictate what sponsorships they allow. And like we're saying, this is probably just because it's a big high profile one. I doubt this is the first time that they've had a sponsorship get cut from this. It's just big time now.
I have sent you guys pictures of both of the vehicles. Mm-hmm. And Summer Richardson's car, the logo that I'm seeing from last year, and this is from a year ago post. I don't know if they ran this past season on Top Alcohol Dragster with that A-Fuel car, but the logo isn't that big. It's compared to the GT car I sent you guys.
Yeah.
Which is
well, and I've seen her new wrap, and that's why I was asking Isaac. I know it's very prominent on that. And that was my question too. It's like, is it just the TV time aspect, or is it like the size of the logo here? Because we're talking tiny little 6-inch logo versus literally half the length of a Top Alcohol Dragster.
But this might also be part of they're trying to keep the floodgates from opening on these kinds of sponsorships, because obviously those types of websites make billions and billions of dollars, and they have the funding to do that if the companies will allow it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and I don't know if NHRA wants to suddenly have Pornhub and Weed Maps and all these sponsors jump on board with national television. It might not be a very good look for the organization.
It could be a bad look. At the same time, with all that money, it could be the next coming of the tobacco companies.
True. But we saw how that eventually turned out, and now all of a sudden we no longer have a Winston championship. We'll just say that.
Right.
Absolutely. That is very true. And yes, I think we're all on the same page here. Interesting times. And really, and to be fair too, I don't envy anybody in the NHRA PR department because they're probably absolutely getting lit up on this.
Oh man.
As well. So just an interesting take, something that popped up in the last week, and kind of an interesting situation. Let's put it that way. So, all right, who else has got something?
Oh, that's pretty much it for me. I mean, I definitely agree. I think they should have gone and nipped this in the bud a long time ago.
I can think of something, and thank K-Dub for this one. I think you guys know exactly where I'm going with this. I like the PSDA, and I'm not an ATV guy. I like the limit on people tucking their heads on their ATVs to where they physically can't look where they're going. All you can see is seat and doing a pose you might see on that website we've been discussing.
Oh dear.
For those of you that may not know, the PSDA, our friends over at the PSDA, have introduced some new rules. There's been a little bit of pushback on some stuff. Surprisingly, one of the rules is no
excessive
tuck position, we'll say, with getting your head down, because apparently there were some guys out there that literally were getting their head down as far behind the handlebars as possible and basically looking out the sides to see where they're at on the track instead of looking forward, to see where they were going to run into once they cleared the 300 foot. And this created maybe some tongue-in-cheek controversy, but also maybe some kind of serious discussion over some things. And I, for one, was more surprised that we actually have had to put in a rule package no leggings / yoga pants.
Let's get too in the weeds here, Isaac, because we're gonna have a whole episode dedicated to PSA rules, car rules, safety stuff. We're gonna have some hot takes on that one, and we'll save that,
to get that
for
one out
another
of my
day.
System, though.
I
appreciate the connection there, Damien. I do think that's pretty funny. And to close off the episode, I think we should say, rate this tuck.
There we go. All right. So, hey, final word then for this episode, folks. Breaking news today that I saw. Alan Reinhardt, who has been the voice of NHRA for a while now, not only on the Lucas Oil Sportsman Series television, but also the NHRA national event announcer, is stepping away from NHRA for the 2025 season. No ill will there. As Alan said in the press release, it wasn't fired or anything like that. But he they just couldn't come to an agreement on what the 2025 contract was going to look like. So somebody else will be filling that microphone now at your NHRA national event. So interesting to see who that happens. And also very interesting because Alan said he's not ready to hang it up yet. So he is looking for some other opportunities, and we may see him or hear him as it may pertain. We may hear him at some events we're not used to hearing him at over on the asphalt side. So, that's, kind of one of those things where I don't know how big a news it is, but it feels like it might be it might be a little bit of some news there. So
That one caught me off guard a little bit. I didn't see that.
No, Alan's been my favorite announcer for the NHRA by far, and I know he said he's got some calls he's got to return and stuff, and figuring some stuff out. I think it'd be cool to see if he goes with Drag Illustrated with their Pro Mod Winter Series. I'm just saying that's where I hope he ends up.
There's only been a few that compared to his level in my lifetime that I can say, and well, two of them are dead when it comes to drag racing. Cale McClellan and Steve Evans.
Very, very, very true. And I tell you what, the next generation of guys has really, taken up that mantle. Brian Loans does a job on the TV coverage. But Alan was really the voice of NHRA. I mean, that you would hear, at all of your live national events. So very interested to see that. And I would agree. I would love to see him involved with the Drag Illustrated Winter Series. So that would be quite something. And Westbuck and the whole team there, Drag Illustrated, has put together a heck of a race deal there. And that should be very interesting. So that would be very cool to see him there. All right. So, folks, for myself, Caleb Mings, your multi-class winner from Dome Valley there, and Mr. Damian Bowers, signing off and wrapping up episode 58 of the Panel Talk podcast. And as always, folks, like, share, recommend it to your friends, tag your friends, and leave us feedback in the comments. We would really appreciate it. Damian Bowers.
Subscribe and hit that bell icon. Gives you notifications anytime we post, whether it be our videos, our podcasts, highlight reels, anything we put on this channel. If you subscribe, YouTube won't always put us in that algorithm. We're not a big podcast. Hopefully, eventually we will be. Right now, we're in the maybe tens of listeners, harkening back to the old Street Outlaws podcasts. But like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon, because that will notify you, whether it be on your phone or just on YouTube in general and through your email, of when we upload.
All right. So there it is, folks. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.